What happens when worship turns into a business? A firestorm is erupting across the gospel and CCM world. And at the center of it are names like Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, and Maverick City music. Accusations of selling out for profit, losing spiritual authenticity, and turning Sunday praise into stadium profit. This isn't just music anymore. It's a battle for the soul of gospel itself. And trust me, what Yolanda Adams just said, it changed everything. The Christian music world is on fire. And no, we're not talking about a revival. We're talking about a growing divide that's rattling pews, pulpit platforms, and playlists. On one side, you've got CCM, contemporary Christian music, slick production, crossover appeal, and major corporate backing. On the other side, traditional gospel, raw, soulful, church-rooted music that's been the heartbeat of Black worship for generations. And in the middle of this storm, Maverick City music, Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, and a host of worship leaders caught in a viral debate that's raising serious questions. Is gospel music being whitewashed for mainstream acceptance? Is CCM too profit-driven? Losing the message in exchange for chart success? Are artists compromising their faith to sell records in the name of Jesus? The internet lit up after Yolanda Adams gave a brutally honest interview questioning whether some modern worship music still serves God or the industry. That sparked a wave of reactions, including Maverick City's defense of their collaboration with Kirk Franklin and gospel fans accusing CCM artists of cultural appropriation and tokenizing Black voices. And here's the kicker. The money involved in this worship war will blow your mind. In this deep dive, we're exposing the profit pipelines, the industry manipulation, and the theological compromises that many fans and even pastors are starting to call out. You won't believe what Maverick City's team had to say when they were confronted with accusations of watering down the gospel for ticket sales. And wait until you hear how Kirk Franklin clapped back. This is where it gets interesting. So sit tight, because we're unpacking the real tension between CCM and gospel. And it's more than just musical style. It's about identity, integrity, and influence. To understand the storm swirling around Maverick City, Kirk Franklin, and Yolanda Adams today, we first need to go back, way back to the roots of Christian music in America. See, gospel music and CCM weren't always on separate sides of the aisle. They both originated as musical expressions of faith, but they grew up in very different churches, cultures, and communities. Let's start with gospel. Born out of the Black church experience in the early 20th century, gospel music was never just entertainment. It was ministry. It was birthed in pain, hope, resistance, and joy. Gospel wasn't just music sung in churches. It was a survival language for African American communities during segregation, racism, and social injustice. Pioneers like Thomas Dorsey, Mahalia Jackson, and later James Cleveland laid the foundation. Gospel was rooted in call and response worship, deep theology, and emotional spirit-led performance. It didn't need a record deal to be powerful. It just needed truth. Now, flip over to CCM, contemporary Christian music, which started gaining ground in the 1960s and 70s, primarily in white evangelical spaces. Artists like Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, and Stephen Curtis Chapman introduced faith-based music with pop and rock influences targeting radio audiences and suburban churches. CCM was clean, polished, and designed for mass consumption. Over time, these two genres built separate audiences, separate charts, and this is key, separate budgets. The money behind CCM became massive. Record labels like Capital Christian Music Group and Provident Music Group, both under major corporate umbrellas, turned worship music into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Artists toured in megachurches, filled arenas, and topped Billboard charts, all while singing about Jesus. Meanwhile, gospel, despite its influence and unmatched vocal excellence, was often left underfunded, underpromoted, and undervalued. This divide wasn't just about style. It was about race, class, and access. Gospel artists often had to fight for visibility. Their music was labeled as urban or niche. Even though many CCM artists were heavily influenced by gospel sounds, some gospel artists were even discouraged from crossing over because labels feared their message or their Blackness would alienate mainstream Christian audiences. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Many black gospel artists saw their innovations and vocal stylings used by white CCM singers without credit, collaboration, or compensation. But that's not where it ends. In fact, this separation laid the groundwork for the tension we're seeing today. Fast forward to now. The rise of Maverick City music was supposed to bridge that gap, but instead, it exposed the fault lines even more. Why? Because when you combine the soulful intensity of gospel with the sleek branding of CCM, you get controversy, confusion, and yes, a whole lot of cash. And trust me, what happened when Maverick City teamed up with Kirk Franklin raised serious eyebrows. In the next section, we'll dive into the moment that reignited this cultural clash. Maverick City's explosive collaborations, the Yolanda Adams backlash, and the growing suspicion that gospel is being repackaged for profit. And wait until you hear what Yolanda really said about worship being turned into a business. When Maverick City music hit the scene in 2018, many in the Christian world thought they were witnessing a revolution, a beautiful spirit-led merging of worship styles that crossed cultural and racial lines. With their raw, unfiltered worship sessions, diverse backgrounds, and collaborations with both gospel and CCM artists, Maverick City positioned itself as the great unifier of modern worship music. Their early songs like Promises, Man of Your Word, Uncle, and Refiner weren't just viral hits. They felt authentic, deeply spiritual, and inclusive. They weren't overproduced, and that's what made them feel real. For many listeners, Maverick City brought heart back to worship. But here's where things took a turn. When Maverick City started collaborating with Kirk Franklin, it was marketed as a historic moment, a fusion of modern worship and classic gospel. Their joint project, Kingdom Book 1, and the Kingdom Tour drew massive crowds and attention. People praised the energy, the message, the impact at first. Then came the criticism. Gospel traditionalists, including fans, artists, and church leaders, began asking tough questions. Is Maverick City watering down gospel to appeal to mainstream white Christian audiences? Are collaborations with gospel legends like Kirk Franklin being used as credibility shields? Is worship being turned into a stage production for profit? And then Yolanda Adams, the gospel icon herself, added fuel to the fire in a viral podcast appearance. She didn't name names, but her words struck like thunder. If your worship experience looks more like a concert than a spiritual encounter, if you're more concerned about brand deals than broken hearts before God, then it's no longer ministry, it's marketing. Fans instantly speculated she was referring to Maverick City's massive tours, carefully curated social media content, and the increasing commercialization of Christian music. And while she later clarified she wasn't attacking anyone directly, the timing was impossible to ignore.